Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast. And as per usual, I'm going to kick the ball over to John, Randall, and I for all sorts of mostly video game chat, some kind of behind the scenes planning what we're going to talk about, kind of like making some pseudo more New Year's resolution games, more like, hey, should we sync up and coordinate on playing this? All sorts of stuff. We kind of talk about like games that have super detailed animated sprites or whatever. Maybe they're not sprites, but just super detailed animations and how sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Kind of all over the map, and we even get into some wrestling chit-chat at the very end. This is from an episode that we recorded right at the start of the year. It's actually the first session that we sat down and recorded some episodes after I moved to Michigan. And yeah, it was the first episode we recorded of the new year, but obviously, yeah, just some behind the scenes chit chat and whatnot with John, Randall, and I, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But as always, I got to talk about some of the games that I've been playing lately. And yeah, I think I mentioned last Save It for the Cast that I had been kind of playing some stuff on Xbox Game Pass, and had initially, that was almost my main thing that I intended on talking about was some of those games, and then I got sidetracked on whatever else I was talking about, the Ludum Dare Game Jam stuff. I guess that's almost always going to get me sidetracked anyways, but over the last few weeks, I've definitely been leaning heavily into my Xbox Game Pass, mostly at night. I've just been kind of like laying in bed at the end of the night and just kind of like, you know what, I'm going to play something like a little more casual, not in every case, sometimes some more hardcore stuff, but the game that kind of sparked the Xbox, other than just finding it in the garage and like, oh, you know what, it's getting kind of cold in the winter here in Michigan, maybe I shouldn't leave this thing in the garage, and maybe I should get it out of here. And so I brought it up stairs, hooked it up, got everything all set up like I was saying last week, and yeah, the game that kind of initiated that desire to want to hook it up, other than just finding it, like I said, was Hi-Fi Rush. I feel like I'm just repeating myself over and over here, but yeah, Hi-Fi Rush just immediately caught my eye. They kind of like shadow dropped it, if you will, like, oh, this game is announced and it's out right now. And it's, you know, it's got a really awesome cell shaded art style. I know that Randall this game's caught his eye as well. I know he hasn't had a chance to play it yet. He actually is in Michigan at the moment, as of the time of recording this anyways, and we'll definitely be planning on talking about we got a chance to hang out at least once while he was in town, maybe one more time before he leaves, but most likely not. I know he had him and his wife and their daughter had like their schedules all lined up. Like, okay, we got AM for this day, PM for this day. Like he was like, hey, you want to come over at 9:30 in the morning? And we ended up just going around to all sorts of video game stores. And there's all sorts of new ones here in Michigan. I think every store we went to was a place we had never been before. So, and we're pleasantly surprised. So I'm looking forward to chatting about that with Randall next time we're able to sync up. He's in town in Michigan at the moment, and then right after he leaves, I'm going back to Chicago to visit John and some other of our pals and get the rest of my stuff. But anyways, getting sidetracked and not talking about video games, back to Hi-Fi Rush here. I really have been impressed with this game, in spite of some gripes, like some of the tutorialization in the beginning is like really kind of choppy and dicey. I'm almost like, is this a tutorial, or is this like, am I supposed to be doing something? Am I just watching a video? It's just sort of a little bit janky and jarring at times, but and to go kind of in that route, or I don't even know how to describe what I'm trying to say, but like in that same vein or a similar vein, even like the character, your main character, Chai, kind of has this like, I don't know, just kind of snarky attitude, and you're playing as them, and you're just kind of like, I don't even know if I want to be this character, you know? It kind of seems like a jerk, just like overly confident, cocky. I mean, there's been a million video games that have used that kind of trope for a character, or even movies, you know, as like that's your kind of hero character, kind of like a bumbling idiot, but, you know, figures, you know, ends up being like his cockiness ends up paying off most of the time, even though it ends up getting your character into more trouble, and then you have to play tougher levels or whatever. But it's a really cool, it's almost like I think of it as like, as far as like the action, like combat goes, it's kind of like an old school, like the first 3 God of War games, where there's just like waves of enemies, and you just got to clear the area, and then you move on to a little platforming, a little puzzle solving here and there. But again, like the cell shaded, just really vibrant, like it almost looks pretty similar to, I actually had to double take, like, is this the same studio? It looks pretty similar to Sunset Overdrive, but it's not from the same studio. But yeah, there's a few gripes here and there. Like we were talking with our pal, Nick McConnell online, like saying like, it sounds like we had a lot of the same gripes, like the run speed, the tutorialization stuff. Like, yeah, just when you're like platforming in between combat sections, like you're just kind of like running, everything in the game happens to the rhythm of the music. So even your attacks, your goal is to kind of input all of the buttons to the rhythm of the music, and then your character kind of executes them on the next beat of the music, if that makes sense. It takes a little getting used to, but I've honestly been super impressed. I've been playing on my Xbox One, which unfortunately the game cannot be downloaded on there. You can only play it via the Xbox like cloud app or whatever. which apparently is still in beta according to like the top of the screen when you boot it up. But I really wasn't expecting this to work so well. I was like, I'm just going to try this real quick just so I can get a little taste of this game and see what it's all about. And then, maybe have something to talk about it on the podcast, or if Randall ends up playing it too. But I ended up getting sucked in a little bit. I haven't played in a few days, but I think I've beaten the first 4 or 5 levels, and I really like how the game is broken up into stages like that. So even though it has that kind of God of War feel, it feels like a little more broken up. You're like, okay, I get like a ranking at the end of each stage, and that's where the timing comes into play. So even if you're off the beat on your inputs, your character Chai and the other characters that kind of come through and support you, there's all sorts of mechanics. It's almost a little bit confusing at times, like they're throwing too much at you, and they kind of pace it out sort of weird. There's a lot of things to gripe about in this game, but at the same time, it just kind of keeps pulling you forward, or at least pulling me forward. And just like, even the music, like it's a rhythm game. I'm not really that into the music. They use a lot of like actual like band songs, like one of the first songs in the game is from the Black Keys. I don't really like them. And then it goes into the 9 Inch Nails. It works for the boss battle, but not really that into them either. Like, I'm not really, for a rhythm game, the music is kind of blah. Even the like songs that are written for the game, like they have a good like jet set radio kind of energy to them, that like kind of punky, I don't know, distorted guitar. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just that kind of like Sega guitar rock sound. I don't know. But yeah, I've been having a great time with the game, and I do intend to go back to it, and I don't want to wait too long because, yeah, they do keep kind of like throwing new mechanics, new characters, not necessarily playable characters, but they're sort of like helper characters, almost like you would get in an RPG or something, like a familiar or something like that. But yeah, really cool game, and I'm not going to dig too deep into the mechanics beyond that because Randall and I might end up talking about this in the future, or if I just keep playing more of it. But one of the other games that I've been bouncing to, and a little bit more frequently as of late, is just playing some Banjo-Kazooie on Xbox Game Pass. And it's still, I think we've talked about this on the podcast at some point in time. I know that we've just been like, oh man, those remakes from way back on Xbox 360, like even when you boot this game up now, even if you're doing it via like the Rare Replay or whatever, which I'm not, I'm just kind of booting it independently on Game Pass, and it just like, it still like logs into Xbox Live Arcade. It even logs into like, but it like kind of goes through an old, like antiquated, like even your achievement notifications pop up Xbox 360 style. Like it's very much of that era, but even so, they really were able to take those N64 games, and I haven't only played a little bit of Banjo-Tooie, but back to Banjo-Kazooie, like having played a ton of the N64 game, it's like, and a ton of this, although I never beat either one. And that's kind of why I started booting this up. I was like, I only ever got to the world where you transform into the pumpkin, and I never really got beyond that. I don't think in the first game I got stuck at some point. And yeah, I've been really having fun in spite of some gripes again. Like I'm still like, where the heck do I go? I'm kind of just letting myself be a little more lax and like, okay, let me just look up how to, get into Clanker's Cavern. Like I'm like, okay, this is where I'm actually at right at this moment. I looked up, I need to swim through that key hole down at the bottom of the water area or whatever, that's like kind of plugged to detach Clanker from the ground, kind of unanchor them from the bottom. So, but to me, it's like, man, I really, other than just maybe trying to swim through it, but I was thinking I must need to trigger something to turn that key. Yeah, so there's like some obtuse, like, what the heck am I supposed to do? Or even just some like, oh man, I got all the way up here and then I fell all the way down from some cheap. I'm trying to think, there were like a few frustrating moments that I had, but for the most part, I really have been just enjoying like running around these worlds. I think I've said this before too, but it just like takes everything that was great about Super Mario 64 and just streamlines it so well. Even like the most impressive thing, honestly, is like when you pick up an item for the first time, like if you think back to like Zelda or certain games, there's a ton of games that do this where you pick up a rupee for the first time or pick up whatever, and then it does like a little pause and you hold it over your head and it does whatever, tells you what it is. And sometimes at the start of certain games, it's like, man, that can be really, really tedious when there's a bunch of different items to get. But in this game, it really kind of lets you like just pick something up, and then there's like a little character dialogue box like for that thing, like the eggs that you get to shoot out with Kazooie. Like they actually are just like bobbing along on the ground while you keep playing the game, and it just like describes, like, they tell you a little joke. It's all, pretty cleverly or at least cutely written dialogue, all kind of in like puns and riddles, or maybe not riddles so much, but rhyming sequences for the most part. It just such a well-crafted game experience, and just being able to like grab the different jigsaw pieces and know like, okay, there's 10 of them in every zone, and there's the Jinjos I got to get. That you just kind of know what you need to do. It never interrupts you. It never kicks you back out of the level and jump back in, start from scratch. It also doesn't do like anything where like, oh, you can't do this challenge until you've triggered this event. There might be a move you need to learn or something to get to a certain area, but other than that, it's like, Oh man, I really have been enjoying playing that Banjo-Kazooie remake before bed, and do intend to hopefully beat it and then just roll right into Banjo-Tooie. I'm hoping to do some streaming of that when I get some time and when I'm just feeling a little bit better. My back and whatnot has not been cooperating as much as of late, but I did also want to give a quick shout out to, I know I mentioned Vampire Survivors while I was talking about Stelloop last week, which was a game created for a game jam by the developer of Revita, and was very inspired by Vampire Survivors. And I had mentioned last week, like, I've never played it, and it doesn't really look up my alley. And so I was like, okay, it's on Game Pass. I got my Xbox all hooked up. Let me install it. And even still, like, for the longest time, the game was like $1 or $2. I think it's $5 now that it's like out of early access and fully released. But again, being on Game Pass, I was like, I have absolutely zero excuse not to check it out. And I gotta say, I got pretty hooked in. I only played maybe 4 or 5 runs, maybe 6. There's 4 different characters you can play as. You got to unlock them all, other than the very first one. But yeah, I got pretty sucked in. I ended up playing for like a good hour or two. And just like, it's one of those games where even though it's totally random, and I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said about this game already, I'm sure. But like, you do kind of like, as opposed to like when I'm playing Downwell or Cave Blazers or certain other roguelikes that have a bunch of different random buffs and power-ups, like I do tend to kind of like hope that I'm gonna get the ones that I like the most, or you end up leaning into whatever you get because you have to, but you do kind of like hope for certain things. Or even in Downwell, if you make it to the end, you're more likely than not you're gonna have most of the stuff that you want. But in Vampire Survivors, it's like it's just totally random, and there's so many different items that you do kind of have to say, okay, I'm just leaning into like buffing the shit out of this projectile, or I'm gonna lean into like just making my whip crazy. And it's just top down utter chaos. It looks a little better in action than it looks when I've seen like screenshots or little gameplay clips on Twitter, or even in the trailer. Like, for whatever reason, maybe it's because they show clips of like the complete chaos, but like it's certainly not the most flashy looking game by any stretch of the imagination, but it does look better than I had envisioned it in my head. At least when you're playing it, at least it feels better or something. But yeah, I really did get kind of sucked into it. And I do intend on like, okay, I got to play a little more with all these characters. I like the kind of unlock system. I mean, it's a little grindy, as a lot of roguelikes are, but it's like got this different, like you can buy permanent perks on the main screen and like keep those activated, but you can sell them back to re-equip certain things. Or if you're like, hey, you know what, I want to equip these other buffs permanently, starting buffs or whatever with this other character, it might work a little bit better. It might be tedious to do that. I haven't played enough to like, I haven't unlocked enough things to where I'm like swapping out 10 or 20 different things, but you can like level things up a ton of different times. It is a little grindy in that regard, which is not my favorite thing, but for an addictive kind of arcadey experience. And it doesn't feel, it's one of those games, I don't think you're necessarily trying to beat anything. I could be totally wrong, but I feel like I'm just trying to like last as long as I can. So, it's more of like a survival, wave horde based game. So I'm kind of thinking of it more along those lines and really having a good time. Although I do think there are different like zones you can unlock, different levels, if you will, even though I think they're just, just different terrain and whatnot. But I could be totally wrong. But at the risk of rambling on and on and on here, which I've already done enough of, I'm going to leave it there for the video games chit chat on my end. I was even going to lean into, I've been playing some of that after that Nintendo Direct. I've been leaning into the Game Boy Advance stuff, but that seems perfect to save for Randall and I, because I got a little sneak peek at his analog pocket while he was in town, playing some homebrew stuff. So yeah, we'll save that for a future episode when we can all sync up. But until next week, we will catch you then, and take care.
When you came to visit us, did you sleep on top of the covers?
I might have. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Was there a blanket on? Was there a blanket on top of the covers?
No.
I definitely covered up with something.
Okay, because it looked like then you did an immaculate job of.
I made that bed. I made that bed pretty nice.
Like like when you left, like I came into the bedroom and I was like, did he sleep on top of the bed? Like, I was like, because like you had like been like say is like, oh yeah, I sleep on the floor all the time. I don't want to put you guys out. And I'm like, Kevin, Did you? Did you not?
I did. As a kid, I used to like, you know, my mom would always be like, you gotta make your bed, you gotta make your bed. So I would actually sleep in a sleeping bag on top of my bed or on the floor, but like, and then just cram my sleeping bag in the closet.
Oh
I
my
was like,
God.
Bed stays made all the time, baby.
Oh my
I
gosh.
figured this one out.
Too smart for you, mom.
Checkmate, ma.
I'd like to see you make my bed faster than that, man. Too funny.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I did sleep on the floor sometimes just because I thought it, like, in my head, I was like, oh, the firm floor is good for my back. And I did that at my apartment sometimes too, but I don't know. It goes back and forth. I think I'm in pain all the time. And some days I have good days and some days I have bad days. And has nothing to do. Well, maybe it has something to do with where I sleep or how I sleep, but
There's so many other factors. It's hard to isolate which one.
right.
Yep.
Right. I ended up sticking with the water. I was going to grab a beer and I was like, you know what? I was like, I didn't think it was a good idea earlier. So why chance it now?
Yeah.
But yeah, we got I figure I'll do Vertical Mouse, Turgenev study. I might mention like another game or two because I was testing it out for a bit.
I'm going to be mentioning more equipment as well when I talk about my video game.
Nice. Oh, nice. I think I have a inkling. Bug Snacks and then Battle Circuit and Streets of Rage 4.
That rules.
And just like beat 'em ups in general.
I'm very fond of this lineup here. This is good.
I like this lineup here as well. Both for like the conversational stuff, because the Vertical Mouse, I'm kind of curious to pick your brain about it a little bit.
Yeah.
Being that you've used one for a bit.
Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Randall, because you said you've had one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then what was I? Oh yeah. You know what I was going to say? Because one other thing that I got for Christmas was, remember last year for Christmas, I got those two Super Nintendo like bitmap books.
Yeah.
Like, I got like the unofficial, like, it's not every Super Nintendo game, but it's just kind of like the dictionary, kind of thing, encyclopedia.
With the BA sprite art all over the place.
Yeah. And then I got the other one that's just kind of like a pixel art book for Super Nintendo. I got the NES one this year, but I just saw today, like somebody that we follow, I think they actually work at Riot Games. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they had posted that they got a new bitmap books, and it's called like Going Straight or Going Sideways or something like that. And it's like same style book, but all about beat 'em ups. And I was like, oh, this is Randall all the way. Like, it looks the same quality, but just like, I don't know if it's arcade strictly or if it's like beat 'em ups across the board, but I was like, ooh, baby.
Yeah.
It looked very nice. They like took a couple snapshots of like their unboxing of it, and I was like, ooh, I might need to get that.
Oh, man. For real, though.
It looks really cool. Like they showed like the opening page, like just had like all the different like go symbols that like tell you to go to the next screen. I was like, oh yes. That's
Battle
so
Circuit
good.
has an incredible Go logo in particular, actually, now that you mention that. Yeah.
That's always such like a great, I don't know, just satisfying
It's like some
achievement.
old dude. I'm not sure what.
Go!
Yeah, I think it's like the guy that gives you your missions or whatever. But yeah, he's just in that little logo. It's really cute.
I miss that like era of, or like late Super Nintendo, like Street Fighter level or King of Fighters level sprite detail.
Hell yeah.
Just like,
They're like huge sprites.
every
like,
single
real zoomed
sprite,
in.
every single animation is an individual like frame.
Yeah.
Like, so every attack has like,
Yeah.
Yeah, it only really works for like those genres, like fighting games, beat 'em ups, because like you get into like, Prince of Persia or like those games that like really detail, even like modern games. Like I've played a lot of hand-drawn games that do feel good to play, but I've played some like, I'm like, man, this game looks awesome and it looks like it plays good, but then when you're the one playing it, you're kind of like, there's a little disconnect between the animation and the movement, but not so much.
Well, I was going to say, I haven't actually played Skullgirls, but I know the artist on that, or like the main artist for Skullgirls, like she does like incredible levels of detail and animation,
art.
And like it's the same thing, but it's just hand drawn and like, but like it's animation, so it's done with that. It's the same level of
animation.
Just instead of sprite art, it's hand drawn, but like every single attack has so many frames of animation that are so detailed. Like
like a Guilty Gear sort of approach. It's just insane to put that level of effort in. It's
Have you guys
insane.
seen Have you guys seen the clips from the like most recent Guilty Gear game?
Yeah, it looks fucking sick as shit.
It looks amazing,
Yeah.
dude. I was like, I haven't been like hyped about a fighting game in a long time, and I was like, oh my god, I want
because
that game.
I could
XV?
never play a fighting.
I think
like,
so.
I'm so garbage at fighting games. Like I could never do like an online thing. Like
Oh yeah, it's terrible. Like the last fighting game I bought, and just kind of because I got swept up in the hype, I got Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for PlayStation 3 or whatever. I got like the collector's edition, but it was like, yeah, anytime I played online, I just got my ass kicked, and then anytime I played with friends, it was just like I didn't really know what I was doing.
Same.
I don't know, cool game ish, but never got too
Strive. Strive is the latest Guilty Gear game.
Yeah.
Okay. I've just seen a few like just clips of like finishing moves and stuff. I'm like, oh, the way like the camera pans and stuff like that.
Those are gorgeous games.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal. I was shocked.
Yeah. Video games. God. They've gotten really good these days.
They're not half bad. Not half bad. Not half bad, but
at least some of those series that are like not just the most mainstream of mainstream have still managed to stick around. That's cool.
Oh yeah, dude, yeah. Pokken was such a good version of Tekken.
I never got a chance to play it, but I always looked at it from
Pokemon
afar.
One?
I
forgot about that game.
I played a decent amount of the Wii U version, and like.
Did they put that out on Switch?
They did.
Yeah.
That was one of those Wii U games that I wasn't going to rebuy because I'm like, I played a ton of it. I know I'm not going to play a bunch more. So I was just like, yeah, I got my money's worth out of that game originally, but it was so fun. Like, God, I loved also like, it seemed like arbitrary. Like I'm not sure if like the developers who were specifically working on it just picked their favorite Pokemon or they picked like the most like popular mix. Like some of them like any fighting Pokemon made sense. Like
sure.
Blaziken was like a starter and also a sick as shit and super popular. I was like, hell yeah. But I'm like, is Weevil really that popular?
Weevil.
Like
that's so funny.
I ended up using Weevil like a ton. So it was like, all right, I guess I'm a Weevil main. Like now
it was like a pretty limited roster, right? Like considering you're working with like like thousands of Pokemon to pick from. There was like 20 characters,
but still pretty big. Like it was just yeah. But yeah, like a fighting game size roster. Yeah, obviously they're not.
Yeah, any Pokemon fan's gonna have some of their favorite Pokemon missing. Obviously,
I'm pretty sure there were 2 versions of Pikachu, and maybe it was Pikachu and it was Lucha
Pikachu Libre.
Pikachu Libre, yeah. Oh yeah, it was Pikachu Libre,
brother.
Oh fucking brother. Oh god, what a good game.
I remember they put out a specific controller for that, and I'm like, ooh, that's my sort of sicko. Do I want to buy this game because they released specific hardware for this one game that I've never played before? I might. Yeah. I'm thinking about it.
It makes you think like, well, if they care enough about the game to like make this extra piece of thing, like it must be a good game. Must warrant the equipment.
God, what if I play Pokken again?
Hey man, that might be your game of the year in 2023. Who knows?
I do want to. Did we talk about? I know we talked about it previous, but did we talk about like coordinating on Star Fox Zero mission?
No, but
I don't think so.
Can we talk about that?
Sure, I'll get over the motion sickness of like inverting controls because
which one is Zero mission again?
Wii U, baby.
Yeah, Wii U, and it has
I don't think
cockpit.
I even have that one.
It has a cockpit view on the gamepad.
Yeah,
and certain things you need to be in cockpit view for, and it is a wild. It is not an easy transition to go from outside to inside.
I don't think every version, but it came with like that Star Fox Guard game as well.
Which they also sold separately later. Yeah.
I heard that was kind of cool. Actually, I know zero about it other than the box art looked kind of cool. Maybe that's all I'm thinking of.
I remember Miyamoto being excited about it on those Nintendo Directs when they had nothing else to talk about.
Yeah. I got like 3 or 4 missions in before I was like, I thought I would have gotten used to the control scheme by now, and I just didn't.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Exact experience. And we're both big Star Fox guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I want to give it another shot.
Me too.
Let's do it. Let's
I'd love to hear about that because that's one that I wouldn't mind. I don't think it's super expensive.
Let's do it a later month.
Sounds good. I'm so close to beating a couple of games that works for me too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We'll keep putting it off. Well, let's come back to this at the holiday episode for 2023, and we'll be like, I don't want to make it my resolution, so let's just do it next year.
I thought we were all gonna play Chasm there as of last episode, so I mean I'll go along with that or a Zero mission.
Honestly,
so,
I'll play some Chasm. I'll dig back into that file.
Judging by how much I
was
blew
loving
up
it.
the Castlevania collection on the Switch, I was like, I might as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Honestly. God, I still
Heck
need
yeah.
to actually give those games another full shot too, for what that's worth. Like that could be the next thing after Zero Mission.
Honestly,
Yeah.
if you got them, they're worth
Which
it.
one? Harmony of Dissonance or Aria of Sorrow or Circle? Which one?
Well, I mean, I'm obviously biased, and Circle of the Moon is my favorite, but it's the slowest and it's the real. Well, it's actually the fastest like base movement in any of the games because it doesn't have a dash.
Okay.
So like it moves the fastest, but you will run into, if you're playing it, like I think you need to play basically Vampire Killer mode, which is you type in Alucard as your name. And it gives you a 100 boost to all of your stats at the beginning.
Oh.
I cannot imagine playing that game without that, like, because
Noted.
even with that, like, it takes, you'll run into like a portion of the game where it's like, oh, I just need to grind for like a while.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very well noted. Yes. And I love the old school approach that way. You put in the name and it gives you a different experience. That's awesome.
Oh
Yeah,
my God.
I do love that.
So also I have 100%ed Circle of the Moon, which is they have after you beat the game in every mode. Well, once you beat the game, it gives you a passcode, which is you put in the name for the next one, and it only works once you've beaten it. So you can't just enter it without having beaten it, except for Alucard. But each one then will like basically zero out all of your stats except for one. So like I think Magician mode is next, which gives you all of your like DSS cards from the beginning and gives you like maxed like MP and like but you're basically one hit kill like of you. And then they give you fighter mode, which I think is no DSS cards, but your main weapon attack like is the strong, like so strong. Then there's thief mode, which is you have shit stats and everything, but you have like 100% luck, so you get item drops 100% of the time.
That's kind of fun though.
It's fun, but it is literally everything is just all right. I'm pausing the game using all of my potions, not unpausing the game. Like,
Yeah.
You're still gaining experience though, as you would in a normal playthrough, right?
yeah. So like it does slowly increase for
evens
everything
out
else
a little bit over time.
Yeah, Magician mode is great because having every spell at the beginning of the game and being able to cast it multiple times is very fun and game breaking.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
bet, yeah. That does sound fun.
Man.
And then I've never beaten Harmony of Dissonance, and Aria of Sorrow is great, but also
Everyone
super
says
janky.
Aria of Sorrow is great, so that's
Yeah.
But no,
Maybe the one.
Circle of the Moon is the one that I bought first, obviously, and I'm
Might as
down.
well start from square one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you thought that the Metroid soundtrack was tinny, boy, do I have a the launch title for you.
Right. That's the thing. It's a launch, so I give it a lot of leeway that way.
With the sickest, pluckiest bass in every song. It rules. What a great thing.
Those games do have cool soundtracks. The little bit I've played of them.
I was too busy playing the Game Boy Advance version of Choo Choo Rocket to play too much Circle of the Moon during those days.
Nice.
Sega, what can I say?
I think I have that one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I might just have the Dreamcast version, but
Hey.
great game nonetheless.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. God.
Yeah.
Nothing quite like that either.
More puzzle
Yeah,
games,
that's
please.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that Sega energy, man. Love that Sega energy.
Especially Dreamcast. Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just like all their games, I shouldn't say all their games, but a lot of their games have like that arcadey
Yes.
energy
By
to them.
nature.
Even when they're not
Crossneak
arcade games.
Plus.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that. I was like, that's probably the closest thing to Choo Choo, not necessarily gameplay wise, but just like
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It
could never
is.
beat that tutorial, man. Never could beat that tutorial.
Get good, man.
Oh man.
Now we're going to play the game called Does John Remember What Order the Digits of His Credit Card Are?
Time to play the game.
Little wrestling. I heard Vince is trying to come back.
No.
WWE.
Fuck off,
I
Vince.
just was
No.
reading that today. They're like,
No.
he's trying to sell the company, but he wants to tank it before he does it.
No, dude, it's successful because you're not there anymore. Go
Yeah.
stay away.
I didn't read enough about it, but it was saying something about like them and AEW. I don't know if they're trying to like merge or something.
What?
or-
No, that's not good either. There should be competition.
Anything about it? I just saw, yeah. Even when Cody went back, it was just like, what is this, man?
It's-
Like, this,
yeah.
isn't that the whole point of the AEW existing? Is so Cody could leave?
Yeah.
Right.
Practically, you know.
But then, like, the competition's good because, you know, like wrestlers like Cody can, you know, have a bigger platform or whatever, right? That's kind of because there's competition, you got more opportunities for more dudes and ladies to make their mark, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says Vince McMahon plots return to WWE to pursue a sale of the business.
What?
To Cody.
No sense.
Sell it to Cody.
Cody Rhodes. It's been a long road.
I mean,
Long road to here, baby.
That would be kind of wild if he sold to Ted Turner after all that time.
Ooh.
You
Yeah.
know, he who owned WCW, and I think he's
That would be crazy.
got a chunk of AEW, doesn't he? I thought he was involved in some way or another financially.
Is
Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know off the top of my head, but
WWE on TBS?
I think it's just on its own, like it's on like Peacock or something. Or no, but it's on like a bunch of different networks. I think it's on like
WWE's
TNT.
still on Fox and
USA?
He might still be on USA.
Yeah, that was
They
it.
used to be like USA and like TNT or no, it was
No,
Fox.
TNT
Yeah, because they made that
is-
huge Fox deal.
Yeah, TNT is WCW, and then well, I think it was, and then I think it's AEW
back in the day,
now,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I think so too, but I'm not.
I do not have the
100%
cable,
sure.
so I do
I
not know.
haven't had
Right,
it. We
yeah.
have it here at home, I guess, but I hardly ever watch it.
Yeah,
I've become like an old man with like cables. Like, and every time I go over to my parents for like holidays, I like look at the TV and I'm like, how does this thing work?
oh, it's
know.
it's overwhelming. It's like, what are y'all doing with this? You just flip through all these channels.
Yeah.
Even though there's nothing good on ESPN ever, I'm just like 202. It's the only channel I know. Just ESPN and just see what Sports Center garbage is on today.
Why
Yep.
did I freeze?
But- Yeah.
Don't freeze.
Are you back?
Why are all the computers
Oh.
so old?
Yeah,
There we
dude.
go.
Oh my god.
There
Oh,
we go.
There we go.
Yeah,
There we
I
go.
mentioned in the Discord about how I tried running what's it? It's not Vermintide. It's whatever the Dark Tide. The
Warhammer?
the 40K version of Vermintide, and
Yeah.
it was just like crashing on launch, and it's like, buddy, your computer cannot run this. And I was like, oh well, I'll check what how out of date my graphics card is. This is a computer from 2013, and
Yeah.
like the graphics card was like 700 and something, and like it's like we recommend at minimum 1,000, and I was like, ooh, that's an
my
extra
God.
digit. That's an extra digit that I don't
Yeah, it's a
have.
decimal place. That's a decimal place.
Ooh, factor
It's
of
like
10.
the 90s days. It's
Yeah.
like, no, you're not running this 3D game. Sorry,
Yeah.
it's not happening for you.
Which is a bummer
Yeah.
because by the time I get a computer that could actually run it, there's not going to be an online. Well, there might be an online community. Who knows? Every game has a
Yeah, there's always a niche.
yeah.
PC especially seems a little bit better that way, right?
Yeah, people will like build their own community if it's not
Right.
there for
Yeah.
them. You know, they're just like, screw it, we're doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Should we just roll right into the second one, or you got anybody need a break or
I might need another
grab another bev?
bevy, but we should
Yeah,
also
I could do
clap. Should we clap when we get back?
Sure.
Either way is fine.
Yeah, let's clap when we get back.
Clap when we get back.